Hey guys, welcome back to Coming Clean. I'm your host, Kylie Lewis, and today I have my guest with me, Jen Altenbernd.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi.
So you and I, this conversation is meant to be very organic and real, and my mantra for life and for this year is there's nothing serious going on here, which is something I messaged you this morning.
Yes, that was good.
It's helpful.
I live that way anyway, subconsciously. So, but yeah, that was helpful for me because I was nervous.
Yeah.
I told you last night when we were talking, like one of the things that I've been working on for the last few years is being very cognizant of not talking too much. And when I'm out with friends or when I'm on the phone and I always leave the conversation, and almost 80% of the time I'm texting that person or texting and being like, I'm sorry if I talk too much, or I'm sorry if, and then you asked me to do this podcast, and of course, when you started it, I was like, man, I want to do that with her. I want to do something like that with her. But when you asked me, and we hadn't had a conversation about it, I didn't tell you that or anything like that. I was like, yes. But then I remembered, I'm working on this thing. And now I got to talk about myself. Right. So it's this weird, I don't think I'll feel like that, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll be texting you oh man, I talk too much about myself. That's the whole point.
It's so funny though. It's so funny because almost every person that comes on literally says that after.
Right.
They always feel like that.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
So that's why you asked the person to be on, and that's what I was like, well, no, that's the point.
Yeah. It's okay to talk about yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would just do a podcast by myself.
Right.
Because I do many
Hey,
of
you
them.
guys, it's me again by myself.
Totally cool with that. But no, you're here for a reason because I wanted you here. And I don't really know initially what I thought of when I asked you to come on. It's one of those things where it's that feels good. I just want to ask her to come on and talk to me. But then last night we talked on the phone for what could have been a podcast, which I mentioned. And I always have this weird feeling of should we talk before the podcast or should we not? Because it's going to ruin the podcast. Right. And it's never going to ruin the podcast because you can always, one, say those things again, but also it gave me such a, it was our reconnection because we haven't really talked for a long time. Right. So to give everybody watching or listening some context, we went to high school together. You were 2 years older than me?
Yeah, I graduated in 2006.
Okay, yeah. So 2008 is when I graduated. And so I want, obviously throughout this, you're going to be giving your story and telling people know, who you are and why you're here, and what has happened in your life to bring you to where you are today. But I think high school is a good place to start because even last night, you were telling me things that I even forgot, by the way, which is really ironic. Right. I forgot that you were prom queen.
Yeah.
And to a lot of people, that's a huge thing. It's
sure,
it's becomes
and that's
part
what's
of your
funny
identity.
Is that it wasn't a huge thing for me.
Right.
So, so we knew each other. We were in musicals together. I mean, we did theater. You did a few things. It wasn't a huge part of your life, but you did it. Or, and we were in the same
student council and
we were just in the same circle. And then we have a commonality with the people guys we hung out with or what have you. So when you were saying I remember you at parties, I don't remember those things. So it's really funny having that you were I didn't remember this, and I don't remember some of the things that you remember.
That's why having this conversation, so your perspective on me is really interesting to hear because I was so unconscious for a while. And so when I hear you talk about even last night we were talking about like when I was going on The Bachelor, and you said I was talking to you about it at Chili's.
Yes.
And I was like, I do not remember this.
Yeah,
at all.
you ran into me and my mom. She had come into town, and we ran into each other, and we just quickly caught up. But I never knew you that way. Mm-hmm. I never knew you in high school. You were always very present still. We were caught up in all the high school things that everybody's caught up in, like the social aspect of high school and who we were navigating through. But I remember as people viewed you as this like beautiful human being, you also were very present with everybody, and you looked at them in the eyes, and then I saw you go through that period where we would bump into each other. You know, you don't bump into a lot of people, but we've always like bumped into each other in random spots of our life. Mm-hmm. There are people I've wanted to bump into from high school, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, if I could just bump into them and be like, see what, you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me, like I've bumped into you just like random years. Mm-hmm. For just like a moment. Mm-hmm. And so I saw you in that time of your life, and you weren't looking at people in the eye then. You were always, it was like you were ahead of yourself. Mm-hmm. You were listening sort of, you were talking sort of, but you were ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you got to this place, it was like, well, that's the person I know. Mm-hmm. Whereas other people in that space of your life are probably like so blown away that you've taken this journey.
Mm-hmm. Like this is new or something.
Yes, correct.
Right.
And I don't think it is.
Right.
I just think you got back to yourself.
I agree. I love
right?
that.
Okay.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, so I think going back to where we started then, high school, tell us like that brief overview that you gave me last night, like starting at high school, who you thought you were, who you felt like you were, like prom queen, whatever, responsible, maybe the friend of the guys, and then
sure
the changing point, right?
Sure. In high school, I never really felt like, I think a lot of people felt like I fit in because that's the way that it looked. I was friends with like a lot of groups of people. I was in theater, and then I was also a varsity athlete, and then I was on student council, but I was always an artist, and so all these like multifacets of my life blended well for me together, but I never felt like I completely thought like anybody else did in high school, because those things, the things that they cared about, the social aspect of it, the maybe sometimes partying, what you wore, don't get me wrong, like I wanted a Hollister sweatshirt, right? But we didn't have, my mom and dad were divorced since I was 5, and so we didn't have the means for Hollister or Abercrombie. I didn't have the body for Abercrombie. I had a booty. I couldn't fit into the flat ass jeans that they sell. I don't know how anybody did to begin with, but I wanted to. So that wasn't lost on me, that want to fit in that way. Mm-hmm. Like I remember getting this Hollister hoodie, and I wore it like one day a week, and it was like every week that week I would wear this hoodie. But then I had this level where I didn't care about, I didn't really care about the gossip so much, and I didn't really care about like where I was going that weekend, whose house I was going to. I remember like my junior year, I spent a lot of time with the seniors because they were past like a kind of rebellious phase, and they were just hanging out. Whereas my class, they were doing like really, in my eyes, like stuff that just wasn't attractive to me. They were behaving in ways that I couldn't really relate to. Mm-hmm. And so I felt comfortable, but I felt so uncomfortable. I was a late bloomer as far as like dating guys. I didn't really date guys, and they intimidated me. And I loved guys. I was, like in love with my best friend in high school, and had to deal with navigating him choosing me over girlfriends sometime, but essentially never choosing me. Mm-hmm. And so it was like it was a lot of this, like, I can't relate to anybody here, but I'm going to choose kindness, and I'm going to choose like being people's friend, because above all everything else, we're all navigating that way. It was something that I knew that I wasn't special in that feeling. I wasn't special in feeling like I didn't fit in high school, but all these people had this perception of me that way. So it was like people would write in my yearbook, like, can't wait to see you on SNL. And so I started creating this persona of who I was going to be. I got like best personality. I got most likely to be famous. And so it was like, well, I got to try to be famous when I'm out of high school. But I did genuinely want that. And I did genuinely feel like that was going to happen for me. But it was also, did I want that? And later in life, I figured out that's not really what I wanted. Because that atmosphere, and you proved it in your story, is incredibly toxic to people. And that business is incredibly toxic. And you see it every day in social media, in the way that these celebrities are having like outward meltdowns and whatever. So anyway, I mean, I had this persona of, I was an athlete and I was on student council and I did all these things and I had all these rooms that I was creating for myself and letting people into my space. But above all, I think I just never felt a focus there. I was semi-good at school. I didn't enjoy school that much. I would tell my mom, like, I'm sick. Like, I would fake being sick in the morning because I didn't want to go. But on the outside, I knew people thought that I just loved it because I navigated socially so well. Yeah. And I was prom queen, and I did get it for, I feel like, the right reasons. And then when you go to this dance and you're up there and there's people crying, like people cried because they didn't get it, and you feel like what are you doing? Like, why are you letting that affect your life? Because now talking about it, it's such a stupid thing. In high school it's relevant, but in your big picture life, you're not going to be like putting on your resume that you're prom queen of your high school. Like, it's just not. But it is something to be proud of in a way, because I felt like I got it for the right reasons, because I treated people kindly. And whether they were a goth, or whether they were an artist, or whether they were a rocker, or whether they were they liked rap, like all these things, it was like, I don't care about those things, because I had an older sister that I saw have to navigate bullying. And I made a conscious choice as an early, early education, like, I don't want anybody to feel that way. I don't want anybody to come home and not understand why somebody is treating them poorly. So let's not let anybody feel that way.
I definitely felt that from you too. I mean, my perception of you, one, was that you were totally confident and like didn't care about anybody. But I mean, isn't that crazy that we all see that from the outside?
Right.
Because I think people thought that about me, and it couldn't have been farther from the truth.
Right.
But also that you were super kind. I always felt comfortable around you and included. And you even said that last night, or in your message to me this morning, like, you always want to be inclusive.
Yes.
And you're really effective.
I think that I'm not great at it all the time. Like we talked about, now in my late 20s, early 30s, I've actually, in the last 5 years, adulthood is much scarier navigating your perception of yourself to people than when you were younger and you thought you were naive to it. Now it's like I have trouble. I've had people say from the gym, from my gym, like, oh, I thought you were a bitch. And I'm like, what? But I get it because I'm going in there in a mindset of like, I'm focused and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do this. But now I make a conscious effort to say hello to new members. But I'm not like that all the time. Mm-hmm. But that has come with aging and maturity. I think before it was like I laughed a lot more. I was a class clown. I goofed off a lot. But I was always like rooted in a kind of a serious, I was better at serious roles than I was at comedic roles. Mm-hmm. And so I just had this world of like, I know that something is bigger out there for us, and you guys need to get there. But those people just cared about what was happening then. And I guess in high school, or in college, moving on to college, that was a totally different. I told you yesterday, like everything up until I graduated and had my son, Abram, was just an introduction in my life. And I truly feel like it was the part where I got lucky enough to be very conscious of who I wanted to be as a person and who I was. And I think my parents helped me mostly. Like, I think my mom helped me find that. She told me we were beautiful every day, and she was super supportive of the choices that we made as people. And she was super in touch with having conversations with us, one-on-one, how we were feeling and how we were. And so I had this respect very early on for being very honest about who I was and how I felt. Mm-hmm. And so then, and we were talking about you feel like I had this confidence, but like anybody else, I don't want anybody to think that I didn't have the thoughts that they did. I did. I wanted to be the pretty girl. I wanted to be the girl that guys lusted over or wanted to date or had 15 boyfriends like every other month or whatever, like I wanted to be that girl. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't that girl. I was like the funny friend. Guys didn't take me seriously. I had red hair, and that was, I think, different for guys. And I would say to my mom, like, I don't think he likes me because of my red hair. And she would say, like, well, that's silly, because some guys don't like brown, like sometimes guys don't like brunettes and some guys don't like blondes. And it helped me a little, but I didn't get that whole life until I got to college. Mm-hmm.
The life of being wanted by a guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did that do for you? Because I know that that's like something I too experienced, and it became almost like intoxicating, but then it was really unhealthy for me because then I was like obsessed with getting that attention.
Well, yeah. So I said I was a late bloomer. I didn't, like I wasn't like a sexual person with a guy until my freshman year of college, which was late. And once that happened, it sort of like shifted a whole thing for me, because I realized how much a part of people that can be. And
in what way?
Well, you think of people differently once you have sex, right? It's like before that, I didn't think of people as sexual people. I didn't really view them as like that was something that was important or whatever. But then, and I could go into a whole thing about, my history with all of that, but it's funny, like once that happened, it was like dating for me, I still thought of it as so important. but there were times where it was like I gave it away. And because it was just something I wanted to do. And now it's obviously not that, because now I'm at a place where it's like, out of that I had a child, and a child I wasn't expecting. So in college, it was still, though, it wasn't like I got attention as far as like, ooh, everybody wants me, or I'm that girl. It was just that guys didn't really care whether I was different because I had red hair, or guys didn't really care. They liked that I was funny. But it was just the start. It was just the start of social media as well.
Right.
It was just, I like remember setting up my Facebook account in college in a dorm room, and so it was that coming of age for our generation of navigating social media and dating, and I still didn't have a lot of boyfriends. I think that my thing is, I have to have this initial, like, I have to have this like body rush with a person, and it just doesn't happen. So when I find somebody attractive and I'm with them, I can just find them attractive. I'm the type of person that can be like, that guy is hot, but I don't want to be with him. Because I can read him, or there's stuff about him, whatever. But like, if I meet somebody that I wouldn't normally find that attractive or whatever, and I get that body rush, I'm like, all right, I have to pay attention to this, because it doesn't happen a lot for me. I mean, I had that with the person I'm with, and I still have that after however long. And we've navigated a lot of heavy stuff, and we've been through that, but it's a huge reason why we take the time to work through things, is because we still have that like
core connection.
Yes.
I can relate.
So anyway, like spinning back to, I guess, going into college, my focus was theater in college, and I wanted to be I wanted to do psych as well. I wanted to be a counselor. I wanted to do psychology, and I could not write an APA style. And we had talked about my issues with learning in general and like not speaking up about it. I got A's and B's in high school, and I went to Augustana, which is a pretty prestigious school as far as grades. And my freshman year, I blew through all the money I made that summer at a pretty good job. I lost my presidential education scholarship that they offered me, and they gave me a chance to work up to it, and I just didn't do the work. And it makes me so mad looking back, because it's been a theme in my life is I don't like to be too much of anything. So I wasn't going to live out of my car for theater.
I see.
So but I was good. But I don't want to live in LA on the side of the road because I want to go on auditions. I was really good at volleyball. I probably could have gotten a scholarship for college, but I just didn't want to put the day in and day out effort of training. And so then I love psychology. I love it. I love talking to people. I love helping people. And then I couldn't write in this paper, but I didn't go to a writing course. And I didn't go to the center that we had for school and say, I need help writing. Because I just didn't want to do it. And so I've had this like struggle with, I've never wanted to be too much of anything, but I envy people that are very like focused and know what they want and whatever, because I've just never been that person. That leads up to, I date somebody my senior year who I had known for a very long time. You know this person. And we moved to Florida. People thought it was like a big deal that we had moved, that I was choosing to move to Florida with this person, but it was just a journey for me. You know, I can act anywhere, I can do whatever. He was my friend, but also my partner, and but I remember something shifted when I graduated college. Like, he would come and we would hang out and we had a great relationship, but something shifted when I graduated, and we moved, and I told him, like, I don't have to go there with you. Like, I don't feel like you love me the same. I don't have to go there. And he convinced me to still go, and then he cheated on me while we were there, like 2 weeks after we drove down there. And so I left, which a lot of people wouldn't do, because essentially our relationship was so good. It was so good. We were good friends, and I felt so disrespected, and because I gave him that opportunity, because I communicated, I was like, fuck you, like, what? I gave you an out and you didn't take it, and then you screwed me over emotionally. And so that is where other people have rebelled earlier in life. I rebelled then. I got obsessive. I wanted to know every detail. I experienced heartbreak. I moved back home like 3 days later, and I moved in with my mom and stepdad in their home in Plainfield, because I didn't want to see anything back home. I didn't want to run into anybody. I didn't blast him on social media like some people do. I just got so introverted and knew I had to deal with it. And it was heavy depression for me. I didn't recognize it, but then I started working at these restaurants and sort of had this restaurant atmosphere of like partying and doing stupid stuff, and not necessarily all stupid stuff, but hanging out with like not great people. And I met my son's father, and he was so opposite of that. He was obsessed with me in a way. I had that body rush with him, but he was so different than anybody that I've ever experienced. For one, he was ethnic. I never had dated an ethnic guy, but I had been attracted to ethnic guys, and it was something that I was just like, I'm gonna just experience this person. And then all these weird things started to happen. It was like, all of a sudden he didn't have a vehicle and he had to use my vehicle, and all of a sudden he got in a fight with his family and he had to live with my family. And I was deep in this depression, and my mom and my stepdad didn't want that. Like, why would they want some kid they don't even know living in a room in their house? But they didn't know how to navigate my depression, because I had been a happy kid. And my mom didn't know if she said no, if I would leave her and I would go off with this person. And so it was, okay, temporarily he can stay here. And then it was, he had to use my phone. And then I gave him access to my social media, because why wouldn't I? And he did weird things like friend requested my ex, or deleted people in my phone, from my phone. And I really completely lost touch with people back home that were really important to me, and nobody recognized me anymore. And this was a short period. I think it was like 4 months, but it was intense. It was super intense, and it was super manipulated, and it was super, but I didn't know any of those things until like the 5th month. And all of a sudden I was crying every day. And all of a sudden I was having to convince somebody I wasn't cheating on them, or that I wasn't a shitbag person. And that was for him. It was for his problems. And I took a step back and I said, who am I? What am I doing? I'm a rational person. I was rational in high school. I was rational in college. For the most part, I made good decisions. I wasn't a bad kid. My mom didn't have to worry about why I wasn't home at night on the weekends because I was partying. I was rational. And now I wasn't. And I remember talking to you about how I'm not a religious person. I again, I'm not too much of anything. So I'm not a super religious person. I would say that I'm quite spiritual. And I told you that. So at some point in this relationship, he had gone to work. There were just these intense fights where he would fight and want to make up. And I started realizing this like process, right? And so I just stood in my driveway and I said, like, what am I doing? And I cried and I sort of spoke to whatever higher power. And I said, I need something. Like, I need you to give me something so that I can get out of this, because I don't know why I can't. And like 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. And I look back on that and I just never would imagine that that's what I would be given, is that I didn't use that as an out from the relationship. I want people to know that, like, I tried to make it work in a way. I tried to have that person be involved, but he was just such a hustler and such a manipulator that at some point I said, I don't know who this person is. I don't know if his name is his name. I don't know if his date of birth that he gave me was his date of birth. And I don't know if, and it's so unfortunate because I didn't ever think I would ever be in a situation where I wasn't like married and had a kid. And so I looked at those two little lines, and mind you, I got my pregnancy test from the dollar store. So ladies, you can just go to the dollar store for yours. You don't have to get fancy about it. I bought like 5 of them, right? And I looked at it and I was like,
were you by yourself?
Honestly, I can't remember if I was with him. I know there was a moment where before I took the pregnancy test, I just knew I was pregnant. It was like some smell bothered me or something that I was like, this is strange. And then I had missed my period, obviously, and I was like, oh, I gotta be. And it wasn't scary, and it was just like, okay. And, you know, like, I always tell people, like, I made the choice to be a mother. Abe chose me, but I made the choice to be a mother, because you don't have to make that choice. Some people will say, yeah, you do, because it is a miracle and all of those things, but you don't. You don't have to choose that path. But for me, everything flipped in my brain back to who I was. I'm going to choose this because I got my focus. I felt lost for so long. I wanted to do theater, but I didn't feel like a theater nerd. And I wanted to do volleyball, but I didn't feel like an athlete enough. And I didn't feel like enough for any realm of space that I was in. I didn't feel passionate enough like other people did. I didn't. And then I was given this opportunity of focus, regardless of everything else in my life. I had him. Well, what would be him.
It at first.
Yes. And so that relationship didn't work. I ended up having to involve police, not for like an escalated event, but I learned some things about him as far as his past, and I said that we had to do it legally, and I never heard from him again.
Up until this day.
Yeah. I haven't heard from him since like August of 2011.
How old is Abe?
He'll be 7 in April.
7.
Yep. And I've never changed my number. He knows my email. I don't get child support from him. I don't want it.
Did he ever meet Abe? Was he there?
No.
No. Okay.
He went to a few doctor appointments, but at some point it became my baby, my baby, my baby, and then threats.
He would say my baby?
Yeah. Just like it was very possessive, like he was with me. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, okay, well, we're going to do this the right way. And you need to take care of X, Y, and Z. You need to pay my parents the money you owe them. You need to explain yourself. And you need to explain why we don't even know who you are. He didn't want to do any of those things.
And when you say that, do you mind elaborating? Because I think I read this in your blog, like the specifics of like you found something.
Yeah, he said he was from Puerto Rico, the whole relationship, and who was I to like ask for, you know, Puerto Rico is, you're a U.S. citizen then. So, you know, like I don't know any different, and I don't really give a shit. Mm-hmm. So but he would say this, and then he would talk to his mom, who was in Puerto Rico, and he said she was an English teacher, but he never let me speak to her. So she would know English, but he spoke to her in Spanish, but then never let me speak to her. And then all of a sudden, when I was pressing to like talk to her because we had a child coming along, he said that she like fell down the stairs and hurt her head and then like could not speak English anymore. And so like legitimately these bizarre lies. Like he told me he paid parts of my student loans, and he would be on the phone. Like he would be on the phone talking to my student loan place, and then I'd realize like he never made the call. Mm-hmm. So that sort of manipulative, like lying. Anyway, so he said he was from Puerto Rico, and I found like a Mexican ID card and a social security number. And when I confronted him about it, I just wanted the truth. Again, I didn't give a shit. Mm-hmm. I just wanted the truth, and he said that they were fake and whatever. And so then I finally found out that like he had been a drug dealer in his past. He was actually from Mexico and here illegally, but I'm still not sure on any of those things, which is fine. Again, I don't want anybody to think that I have this like negative view of that. It was just the honesty part of it, mm-hmm. that it was like, I never gave you an indication that I wasn't going to still be with you if you were illegal or whatever, and I still don't know the truth about any of it.
Wow.
And so the only thing that I did was I wanted to do it properly. If we were going to parent together, I wanted to do it in a way that I wouldn't be afraid that that person wouldn't take my child and run. Mm-hmm. And that was not the indication that he gave me. I didn't trust that he would not run away with him. And essentially that's how we've gotten here. And it's really hard because I don't want to assume that would happen. Now that Abe is older, he's having a lot of issues with not having a father when he has father figures. He's having a lot of issues, and I blame a lot of the things that he's watching, because it's like if he's on YouTube, he'll watch videos of like kids playing with their dad. Mm-hmm. So I've had to backtrack on that. Mm-hmm. And say like, what do I expose him to? What don't I expose him to?
Because obviously he'll see it even with his friends.
Yeah, you can't like say, oh, I got to keep this all from you, because eventually when he's of a mature age, I told him I will try to find your dad for you. But he is so introspective, my son is, and he's so quite empathetic towards humans, and by introspective I mean he's 6, and sometimes I forget and I'll have conversations with him. I told you this is like, I will have a frustrating moment of our day and I'll yell or I'll whatever, because I have to be a bulldog and I have to be his mother. And I've had to work since I had him. I've just had to. So I got the job at 911, and it was incredibly demanding because it's 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I don't get to make dinner with him every night, and I depend on other people's parenting tactics. And it's navigating, and I've said that word a lot, but I mean, we say it a lot anyway, because that's what life is navigating all those things. He's been raised by so many people that I sometimes feel like my kid's older sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said that last night, and initially I was like, yeah, I think it's so cool, because I see on Facebook, and I've watched you kind of post things over the years, and like many people view you, and and I would love for you to unpack that too, is like, you are such a cool mom. Like, you've taken him to Australia, you've taken him to Ireland really recently. Last week
went to Nick Jonas.
He went to Nick Jonas, and he's obsessed.
He loves Nick Jonas. He still sort of does, but he's like confused about him marrying somebody. He's very confused. Because I was like, Nick Jonas got married, and he's like, oh, yeah. It's really funny.
Oh my God,
because he still like loves him, and if I put on his music, but he like doesn't want to sing it for people.
Now, just because he got married.
Well, he just doesn't. He just like is very like, people will be like, yeah, sing me a song. I don't know a song. And he'll be like, no. But in the back of the car, if I'm not like looking at him, he is on it.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
so
yeah, so I have chosen experience over anything. I can't stand toys. I can't stand that you like get them a toy and they play with it like literally for a few seconds and then they don't have any interest in it. And I'm pretty frugal and with my money in that regard. Like, I don't buy a shirt unless I absolutely love it. Unless it's like a t-shirt like this. Like, I'm not extravagant in anything. My gym shoes, I don't buy $150 gym shoes. I go on Amazon and I put like CrossFit shoes in or something, or like, I don't do CrossFit, guys. I don't do it, but I do HIIT. But I'll put like HIIT shoes in there, and then I'll find something on sale. Yeah. Because I'm like 80 years old. I just don't.
Or just practical.
I just think everything costs so much money, and I want everything to cost $20. Yeah. So anyway, I choose experience over everything, but I don't think people really gather that like I have the struggle of the relationship with him of like, we'll be driving in the car and I'll think I'm like his older sister babysitting him in a way, because I've spent little time with him because I've had to work so much. So every other weekend he's with my mom in the suburbs because I work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I drive him into her work. She takes him. I work all weekend and I pick him up on Sunday. So there's no chunk of that weekend that I'm with him. And so I've had to do that for the last 5 years of like, there are sometimes I work 14-hour days in a row because of staffing issues, where I would wake up I'd get off in the morning, I'd get him ready for camp or school or daycare or whatever, and I have to sleep during the day. Mm-hmm. And then I get home and I do whatever. Maybe I go to the gym, maybe I choose to spend that time with him, and then he's off to somebody. And so I've never had that. Even like when I had him, I couldn't have like a maternity leave to like spend. I did, right, but I mean I couldn't have an extended time with him. Mm-hmm. So are we connected? Absolutely. But motherhood for me is very strange because I am a mother, but it certainly doesn't define me.
Yeah. I really want you to talk about that because you talked about it yesterday, and I think it's so refreshing, and I mean that in such a positive way, because I think, and I'm not a mother, so I don't want to pretend like I know anything from experience, because I don't, but judging from like just all the women that I come into contact with, a lot of them are moms. Yeah. And a lot of them feel, I think what they're doing is putting so much pressure on themselves to be like you mentioned, like a mom blogger or something, or like this perfect mom, and you try to be this thing, yet you still have to be a human. You still have to potentially work on your body, your health, your mental health. Right. So how do you navigate that? And then I'd love for you to kind of bring into it like the fitness part of it. Like, how do you make time for that for yourself?
I started that journey like 3 years into 911. I got the job at 911, and I realized pretty quickly how stressful that environment is. You're in there for 12 hours. It's staffed 24/7, and you are thrown with negativity every single call you take. There are people that say thank you and make you feel good, and I love the job, but it's negativity all the time. And so I recognized that right away. I'm already not feeling great about myself. I was the heaviest that I had ever been, but I viewed myself kind of strangely, where I didn't have a confidence, but at the same time I didn't really I was an athlete, so I thought like, oh, I'm fine. Like, I'm just kind of thick or whatever. But then Abe started getting more active. while I was there. So he was just turning 2 when I started, and obviously, like, I wanted to be active with him, and I was getting out of breath, and I was working this job that I wanted to sleep all the time. There was not a day, like, my sister has jokes that she like, for a few years of my birthday, she would put a collage that I didn't know she had taken all year of me sleeping. And it's so funny because I am like a cat. Like, I could sleep anywhere at any time. Like, I slept last night and then yesterday as well during the day. So I got off of work, slept, went to the gym, did whatever with Abe, read and whatever, and then I slept again at night.
Well, I mean, the hours you work are throwing off your circadian rhythm.
Yes, but I mean, when I need to sleep, or when I want to sleep, I'll just sleep. But that doesn't happen all the time. So anyway, I recognize that. I recognize that this job was stressful in a way that you don't recognize it, because you're not in the face of it. You're just hearing it all the time. So... and then, you know, like, I was inspired by other people that took their own fitness or their own health into their, who I was hanging out with and whatever. And I saw an ad on Facebook for Maximum Performance, and I went to this thing, and I was pretty, I don't know how to describe it. I was like, I couldn't, you know, it was like, you lose 20 pounds in this amount of time. And I was like, I can't lose 20 pounds in that amount of time. I don't even think I can lose 20 pounds. And like, the owner, Lindsay, bless her heart, didn't laugh at me. She just sort of said, okay, well, why don't you just join the gym? Why don't you just do what you want to do? And they didn't pressure me into anything. And I started it, and it was hard. It was hard. And but I loved it. I got addicted to it, because it was like, afterwards you just have this, like, I'm doing something. Because if there's anything that I tell people and I get frustrated and I have to be softer about, it's like, I'm tired of people bitching and moaning every week about something.
And then not doing something.
And then not doing something to change it. Because I did change it. I wasn't happy with my body. I felt out of breath when I was lifting my child up. I didn't want to play with him. Like, 100% did not want to play with my own kid. He would want to play with me, Play-Doh, didn't want to do it. Too tired. And so at some point I said, what am I doing? Like, I chose to be a mother, so now I have to choose to be a mother. And let me try this. And since then, Abe has come with me to the gym and, you know, done his own thing. We joke that he was like the gym dog, because he's just like there with us, and he just runs around, and like, we don't have a dog there, so Abe's like that for us. And he knows the people. He just chills and he does whatever. Sometimes he will mess around with some equipment, or not as a serious thing, but he sees that. And we talked about how I don't have a lot of time now. I do have time off in the beginning of the year because of people not taking vacations and whatever. But it's like, when I am busy and I am working days and days and days in a row, I still chose to go to the gym, because that is my time where my brain shuts off into that. And so much of the time, I don't have a chance to shut my brain off. I'm a loud person, I'm a silly person and whatever, and more than not, from this job and from things that have happened with this job, really devastating things I've heard and had to experience, I'm a much more introverted person, and there are days that I drive in my car with the sound off, and I just drive. I was never like that before. I wanted to be with people, and I wanted to be talking to people, and I wanted to be in these social atmospheres all the time, and now I think that's what's hard to get my friends to understand, but I have such understanding friends anyway. I mean, I take a lot of pride in the time that I am there, I'm checking in on somebody, or I'm reconnecting with a friend, or those are the things that serve me. Those are the things that I take pride in, that Abe sees, is that if anything, he's been around a lot of my friends, and he sees how many friends I have, and he sees all all of these things that I'm trying to do. And I had told you last night, a lot of people, I'll post something funny, like a quote or something. Like last night I was going to post something like I was reading to him, and to make it fun for him, because I have a feeling he's going to be like one of those kids that I have trouble with school, because he's just like, I don't want to do this reading or whatever. So I was being silly, and he was like laughing, but he was like, you're so annoying. And I was like, oh wow, I am, but like we're doing this thing or whatever. But I'll post these things like Abe slept in a cardboard box last night because he wanted to. Mm-hmm. And people will be like, you're such a great fun mom or whatever. And it's really weird to me because I'm not great. I'm not. Like, I promise you guys, like, I am not a great mother. I have great moments. But I have a lot of shitty moments with my kid. I'm irritable with him a lot. He treats me differently than other people. I have to navigate my parenting with other people's parenting with him. And it's been a journey, and I think the biggest thing is that with single mothers or mothers in general, like, make time for yourself. Your kids don't have to be your whole life. They're your life. I make every decision based on Abram. The job that I work it because I can monetarily take care of him and take him on trips and do these things. But they don't have to define you. They're a part of you. They're a part of your life. But I guess that's what my biggest thing when I talk to women is, like, if you want a body that you see, you can do it. Maybe you have health issues and maybe you have things, but try your best, because no movement is going to be detrimental to your mental health and whatever, but some movement is better than none. Or if you're constantly griping on Facebook, it's really hard for me as a person to see somebody that's putting their whole negative life out there, and I want to be like, okay, what are you doing to change it? Like, do something. I don't care what you're doing. I'm not going to judge you for not going to the gym. I'm not going to judge you. I don't always eat clean. Like, I don't always eat the best. That's when I had my Instagram page that I was doing gym stuff on, and we talked about that, and we could get into social media, I think, for a whole podcast and our views on it. Like, I stopped doing that because it just didn't serve me anymore. And I didn't want to be that person, but, like, I would share my clean eating, and then the days that I was, like, PMSing, I would share, like, sour cream cheddar potato chips that I ate, because, like, we are way too hard on ourselves. But we also should be hard on ourselves. And that's the balance that I think people, and women especially, and mothers especially, so many people are putting too much out there for people to judge them. If you don't put your shit out there, nobody's going to judge you on it, right? So if you're giving an update every day on your life of, like, your dude treating you badly or whatever, you're going to be judged. But if you don't, and you handle that personally, like we used to before it even existed, only your friends are going to be there for you. Because I think, and this is on mom blogs, and this is on everything, I don't read any of that shit. I didn't even prepare for my birth. I didn't prepare for anything. I didn't read anything because I didn't want anybody's opinion of how I should do something. I researched stuff, sure. But even in life, it's like, I feel like when you put so much of your life out there and then you get judged and you're surprised by it, why are you surprised by it? Mm-hmm. You put that stuff out there. And then on top of that, you're allowing people that barely know you to have an opinion and put their opinion. Girl, you got this, blah, 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 when you don't know that story of the other half of whatever they're dealing with. Mm-hmm. But you're wanting the support, and that's fine, but you have to remember, what did I do in this situation? What is my responsibility in my unhappiness? And I think that's the biggest thing that I want subtly to portray is, I'm very real when I'm unhappy, but I don't put it out there all the time. I'm honest with myself about it and I express it. I try to take people's opinions. I used to be the person that I would tell everybody everything about my life all the time. I need your opinion. I need my mom to be okay with the situation. I need her support in the situation. And now at 30, and I'm going to be 32 this year, I'm finally so comfortable with making decisions and not needing to tell somebody about it.
Wow, that's huge.
It is. It's or getting opinions from somebody and not getting obsessed with needing everybody to be happy with my choices. Because I'm not making shitty choices, I'm just making choices.
Right. How do you think you developed that? Like, where did that come from? Just experience?
From a whole life of caring way too much about people and what they thought about me. 100%. I functioned in my life completely always aware, what is this person going to think of me if I make this choice? And then I had a humbling experience of getting accidentally pregnant when I was the person that would never do that. You know, I was super responsible in my life. I made pretty responsible choices. I never partied that much, like I said. I wasn't a wild kid. And I would judge people. I'd be like, how did they accidentally get pregnant? Like, I had conversations with girlfriends. I'd be like, how did they accidentally get pregnant? That's so dumb. And then I did. And it was like, okay. Because I'm the type of person, like, I need one time to experience something that has a negative effect on me, and I won't make that choice again. I won't be with another person. You can't always control that. But so many women are so quick to be like, that was all that person's fault. This is not my fault. Well, sure it is. You made that choice to stay with that person, or you made that choice to stay in that situation when you didn't have to. But if you're gonna stay in that situation, whatever it may be, you know, eating pizza every day, or being with an abusive guy, or taking a selfie every day, all of those things, if you're going to make that choice, again, you should be quite aware of how you're perceived if you're putting all of that out there.
And how it feels.
It feels. I mean, I'm trying to be very, obviously I'm not a completely judgmental person, but it's hard. It's hard to, I want to shake a lot of people that I see. Like, it's hard for me. I've recently tried to stay off of Facebook because it was affecting me. People thinking that their opinion is even relevant or needed for stuff. And their negativity on top of other people's negativity. And it's such a hard thing for me because it's a love-hate relationship, because I love seeing what people are doing. I love sharing their successes. I had a friend come out with a book. You know, I want to share all that stuff, and if I missed it, I would be quite upset. But then at the same time, there's so much of that world that I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, I feel ya. I mean, like we talked about, you know, I went through the phase of looking to it for approval when it comes to like taking selfies and posting whatever I was up to, that I wanted people to tell me, good job, you know?
Yes. You wanted the like. It was, well, I'm feeling pretty today. I wonder if other people... And that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? That's fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, we've seen your face every day this week. We still know that you're pretty.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
We still know that you're pretty. We still know that you're good at your makeup, or... We still know all these things. And that's where I got with, like, doing my fitness page, is like, I felt the need to post every single day.
Yeah.
I felt the need, like, if I didn't post, people won't know that I go to the gym 5 days a week.
Right.
And then I just sort of got to this place where I was like, this is really just self-satisfying. And is it really? Because I'm posting it, and yeah, people are liking them, and people are being like, thanks, this helps me with my form, or you're so inspirational, or this, that, or the other thing. And it's like, well, I don't want to be defined by this either. I don't want to go into a conversation at dinner with my friends and them feel like they have to talk about the gym, or that I have to talk about the gym. I don't want to talk about the gym all the time. Yes, it's a part of my life. It's a huge part of my life, and I'm finally actually comfortable in a body that I have, and I'm finally actually comfortable not wearing makeup, and I'm finally actually comfortable with the clothes that I like that I would have never bought, and I think, but I'm also not needing that anymore. I'm not needing those likes. Because here's the thing, I'm still going to the gym,
right?
Regardless of me posting about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people forget, is I'm not judging people for staying on social media. I'm on it still. I just think we have to be much more conscious of your life is still moving forward, whether you post about it or not. And so many people have forgotten that.
Yeah, I forget it myself some days.
Right.
That's why it's such, awareness is the key, because you have to check in, on a moment-to-moment basis. It's like, why am I posting this? Does this actually fill me up? Like you said, is this self-satisfying, or am I actually just, hurting myself? So
but you're in a weird right, and you're in a weird situation, though, because you have found something that you love to do, which is life coaching, or talking to people, or figuring you're curious about the human condition and how people operate, and you're opening this world up to women specifically, which I love, because that's what I started my gym page for, is just women. And then you get these people liking your stuff that are like men or whatever, and you feel sort of like, I don't like that. Because I want it for women too. I want to empower women to feel like they can go to the gym and be a mother. They can have their kids see that. And now you're in a world where social media is the way you're going to be successful. Is if you get pages out there, people see your stuff, people see podcasts, all of those things. It's about navigating social media and how you can expose yourself. And so that has to be hard, because at the root of it, you don't want to be the center of attention, but you're choosing a profession that puts you very much in that space of having to post something. Which has caused me, and I expressed this to you last night, it's like I'm viewing it as this really beautiful, constant opportunity to check back in with myself and make sure that I'm being the person that I'm encouraging all of them to be, instead of getting lost in the encouraging. It's like, hey guys, self-care, yoga, meditation, but I'm over here posting to you the whole time. It is a really strange, it's a really strange thing that we're having to, as we mature, right, too? It's as we mature. So it's like, I have friends that aren't on it at all, and I think, man, what are they doing?
Are they alive?
What are they doing? Because there are times where I've sat on my couch and been on my phone for an hour, which I'm very honest about, is why I've gotten the app off my phone, and why, and while my kid is, doing whatever, I'm on my phone, and that's ugh.
Yeah, I know. We could do an entire conversation about that, because, I've recently watched videos and listened to some research just about the brain development, but that has to be so hard too, because it's like, but they're really great tools, and there's a lot they can use it for, and it's the best way of entertainment if you just want to chill out for a second.
Yes. It's
got to be hard.
It just sucks in general, and I think that, again, I can't be too hard on myself about it. Okay, here I took a moment and I did this thing. Now be conscious of it and move on and move forward, and it happens and whatever. But again, it's something that I want to look at, single mothers or mothers that have the other half in their life. It's like, these things are happening to you, and you have to choose how your reaction is to them.
Beautiful. So we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah.
We could talk forever.
I know. We could. I don't even know if we talked about anything that you wanted to on your paper?
Everything. Organically,
Okay,
you brought up everything. I was checking. I'm like, okay, we're on track. Yeah, we could just go further, but we won't. Not today. But one last thing I want to ask you that I ask everybody is two-part question, and you kind of maybe already answered one part of it, but what's one thing that you'd like to do more of? What's one thing you'd like to bring into your life more? And then what's one thing that you are currently coming clean of?
I think that I am in a space right now where I feel very settled in a good way. I feel like I am going with my life in the way that I want to. I guess more so getting back to what the things that I loved when I wasn't, like at the gym, or, I love movies. I haven't sat down and watched television, and I have a really hard time sitting down because I feel like if I'm not moving, I'm not being productive. Mm-hmm. And so we've talked about the obsession you get with things and how you dive completely into it, and then you're like, oh, geez, I'm deep. Like, I'm really deep. And so I'm coming out of that. I'm coming out of, like, last night, me and my sister sat down and watched a movie, and I haven't done that. I don't even know what shows are on television anymore, and I was in that world, right? And I was obsessed with knowing what movies were coming out and all of those things. So I think getting back to just chilling out and actually watching stuff is what I want to bring back, because it has been such a big part of my life, and I just don't do it anymore. And I guess coming clean of, I don't know. I think, what have people said?
Anything from being on my phone less to judging myself
100%
less,
being on my phone less,
or overthinking, really anything. It's anything small that you're like, oh, I do that too much.
I think every day I'm coming clean about something with myself, and I think that again, moving forward and recognizing characteristics about myself that I want to adjust, coming clean of vices that I have that I don't necessarily, my phone. I've been painting a lot, so it's all these. You got me at a really,
you're a really good painter.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you came to my paint class one day, and I was like, "Damn, girl."
Well, and I'm selling stuff now, and so
Oh.
you got me in a place where I'm doing those things. I'm actively, doing the things that I have always said. I've wanted a podcast before, and then I've never executed it because, why do people want to listen to me again talk all the time? Because I want to get rid of that. But anyway, I guess I mean, I'm doing those things. I'm spending less time on my phone instead of at work, when we could be on our phones in the dead time where we're not that busy. I'm choosing to paint. I'm choosing to do projects and de-stress that way.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I guess I'm doing the things that I want to do.
That's beautiful.
I hope.
Yeah, good for you.
But who knows? It could change tomorrow.
It will, always. But you're doing great.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
It was such a pleasure.
It was nice. I didn't want to come, I'm not going to lie, because I was so tired. I woke up really tired, and I was like, I want to go, but I'm tired.
Well, I'm glad you showed up. Otherwise, I would have been sitting here, and Dalton would have had to sit in for you.
Cool. That's awesome.
Next time. I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much.
I hope we can do something again. Maybe we can do a micro, focused podcast.
Yeah, the first one is always all over the place in a good way.
Yeah.
But then the next one can be okay,
I'm legit all over the place, so it's a really good representation of me.
That's okay. We loved it. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.
You guys have a great day.
Bye.